Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Andrew and Peaches. This is gonna wait for a sec. Alton Gas, Washington Gas. I am at the truck house live, and it's a beautiful day. We have some people doing ties, making fires. This piece of art was made, what's her name? Oh, I can't forget it right now. Anyways, it's going to come back to me. And I'm going to go switch over and show you guys the truck house and the Minas Basin, Nova Scotia. I'm tagging people in Washington, so I'm hoping people in Washington Gas can join us also. This is a Bay of Fundy river system, and this is the Minas Basin, and right now it opens up right around the corner to Shuby and Stuyak River. And my people, Nova Scotians and Mikmaq people together in the faith community, worked together for years to stop Alton Gas. And that's important. I'm going to show you guys. Recently, I was invited to Washington, D.C. I got a phone call out of nowhere. And I was asked to go to Washington, D.C. to speak about Alton Gas. And I'm like, what does Alton Gas and Washington, D.C., like, I couldn't figure it out. But I listened to the conversation, and I end up in Washington. This piece here is the truck house to the White House, and if you look way over there, there's the White House. And when I did this piece, I wasn't quite sure about it or anything. But I'm going to go back live now so we can have a conversation outside the truck house. Oh, sorry. So I'm at the fire pit at the truck house with a few people in Mikmaq territory. So what happened is Alton Gas left Nova Scotia. And the reason they left Nova Scotia was not because of the Mikmaq, but because Nova Scotians and the Mikmaq together decided this isn't what we want in our territory, our province, our land, our resources. And so when I got the call about Washington Gas, I went to Washington. They have an old ancient charter from the 1800s. And Alton Gas, when they bought Washington Gas, they didn't have any people that they had to deal with, because the people in Washington don't have a say over their energy, what kind of energy they're using or how they use their energy. So the people in Washington have new owners of Washington Gas. And the people of Washington, and like most people around the world, is looking at a greener economy, a greener energy grid, something that's softer to the environment, that meets with the values of human beings in the world. And so when I'm watching the news with Trump right now, at first it scared the shit out of me. And then I realized, no, this is the time. This is the time, because what happened with Washington Gas, the people there have no say over their gas use or energy use or where their money goes, because Alton Gas bought Washington Gas with a charter. It's an old charter, and it's 1800 and something. I don't know as much about it as I need to. But these charters give Alton Gas, aka Washington Gas, the right to provide oil and gas and the pipelines in perpetuity. In perpetuity. So they have this tool that they didn't have in Nova Scotia. When they got in Nova Scotia, there is no tool that gives them the right to do whatever they want without people having a say. So with Alton Gas and the truck house movement, it gave a voice to not just the Mikmaq people, it gave a voice to Nova Scotians. So that's something that other provinces don't have right now. And the voice wasn't given to us, we fought for it. The Mikmaq people stood up with our neighbors here around here. There's neighbors here that came out and stood with us. And also the church communities in Nova Scotia stood with us. So the Mikmaq Aboriginal voice to say this is the kind of energy projects we want, it wasn't alone enough to win against Alton Gas in the province of Nova Scotia and what they were trying to do under the carpet. And I don't say that against Liberal, NDP, or Conservative. The Alton Gas project and the energy gas projects have been, it's a sort of a free-for-all. You just kind of come to Nova Scotia, they rubber stamp, and then they move it on. And a lot of world powers do that. They have things like environmental assessments to confuse Canadians to think that these assessments are really good for the environment, and they're not. They're paid for by industry and everything. So it's pretty much a useless, one-sided process. What happened in Nova Scotia should happen all over the world. And what happened in Nova Scotia is the Mikmaq people have a right to have a say over the energy that's used in their province if it impacts the Aboriginal right to hunt, fish, trade, live, prosper, sovereign, rule, govern. Why shouldn't all Canadians have that right? Why shouldn't all Nova Scotians have the right to say, this is how we want our energy used? And we don't. So I ended up in Washington talking and sharing about how Nova Scotia was able to beat Alton Gas and all the government legislations against us and for their industry. We still were able to beat them. And it's because of our neighbors. And I mean, the Mikmaq and the Nova Scotian and the faith communities came out. Everybody in Nova Scotia came out over a matter of years to voice their concerns. And that needs to be legislated. We need to make that right a legislated right for Nova Scotians and all Canadians and all Americans and everyone in the globe. People have to be tied to their energy decision making. If you're not tied to your energy decision making, then you're living in a Trump world, a Trump reality. Drill, baby, drill is what he's saying. I know Houston, Tim Houston, not Tim Hortons. Yep. We have Tim Hortons cups here, like Tim Houston. That's not Canadian. Tim Hortons is, and I have a cup here. But what needs to happen with Nova Scotians is we need to codify and fight for energy democracy in our province. That means whatever energy strategies that we want to develop in Nova Scotia, we have a legislative environmental energy bill of rights. And our money, the taxpayers' money, and the values of Nova Scotians, those decisions need to be made. And we don't need to drill, baby, drill. And we don't need to reverse, 45-year-old bans to prosper as a small province. What we need is to look at other countries in the world that are very good at green economies. And green economies mean they're sustaining themselves. Local economies, we sustain ourselves. Nova Scotia is the closest. I think as a province, Nova Scotians can survive this. We have a small province, we have a small land base. We need to protect our water. You guys know the water in Nova Scotia is only as good as what you're standing on. So if you have an ecosystem or an aquifer water, a waterbed where you're at or watershed where you're at, and you can access it, then you're great. But for the rest of us, we need to protect our water. It's water shortages, water quality, and water quantity issues in Nova Scotia is a real thing. We can talk about the droughts. We can talk about the boil orders. But we can also talk about Nova Scotia's geology. From Enfield to Truro is gypsum. We're not getting no water there. Nobody's, like, if you got a house with no water, no well, it's useless. And I live on a well, and now I have 2 wells. I have 2 wells to flip it over. So I think what we need to do as Canadians, or Nova Scotians, let's talk about Nova Scotia, because Nova Scotia is a small little island. Nova Scotia is such a unique ecosystem. If you look back here, this Minas Basin comes off the Bay of Fundy River into the Chubby-Stuyak rivers and all the Bay of Fundy river systems in Nova Scotia. And a few years ago, we had a drought. Salmon weren't making it up. You know, it was horrible. It was horrible. The rivers are literally dry walking across them. And one of the things we talked about at that time, and we realized at that time, is this beautiful Bay of Fundy system. No matter what they think, is it capable of, you know, dumping salt brine and then washing it back and forth out to the ocean? And no, all that does is just pollute back and forth here. We've seen a boat here when we were doing the protest, and it went back and forth for weeks. It never went out to the ocean. It stays here in our province, in Mikmaq, in Nova Scotia, in your backyards. So I want to have this conversation because globally we can't turn ourselves into America where the corporations buy the energy and the grills and like everything. We need to slow it down, and now's the time, because I know Houston and I know in Canada, we do need to look at our energy uses and the energy that we want to use in our province and our country. And it shouldn't look like the United States. It shouldn't look like other places in the world that are already too far gone. In Nova Scotia, we are not too far gone, because this little truck house defeated Alton Gas. And where did they go? Why did they leave the truck house? Because the people here had a say. Why did they go to Washington? They have a 1800 charter, gives them rights in perpetuity to provide the oil and gas and energy, the dirty energy they want. And the people of Washington don't want that. The people of Washington want what Nova Scotia had during the Alton Gas. They want to be able to have a voice. They want their priorities be tied to the energy that we use as Canadians. So I wanted to come here and just share with everybody that I think Nova Scotia is a good model for a standard, a global standard of energy democracy and environmental integrity. We can't allow drill baby drill into this province or this country. But I know people are afraid. And I think Nova Scotians are also a good model too, because we got through COVID with each other. We got COVID shopping locally. We got COVID looking out for each other. We got through the hardest times of a pandemic. And I think it made us stronger. And I think we're going to have to be strong this time, because we're going to have to get up and fight to have a voice over where our energy dollars and our energy priorities go. But don't let the drill baby drill scare you. Don't, you know, we're going to get through it as Nova Scotians, as Canadians. And the way to do it is tie your energy uses to the people, the population. That's your safety net. If you don't do it, we're nobodies. We're stuck with corporations controlling the energy sectors. The other thing is, I'm going to say one last thing, is look at different models all over the world of energy infrastructure. Some states are doing a good job, but in the United States and Canada, it's all owned. Energy infrastructure is all owned by private corporations. The oligarchs of the world own our energy choices. So look at the models out there. And I know there's even China has a model that they've been watching Russia when it got capitalism, and then other markets around the world, there's a balance between what is owned and run and controlled by the people. I'm not saying follow their models. I'm saying there's really unique models out there, and that's what we should be doing. And this is nothing new to Tim Houston. You know why? I sat next to Tim Houston at a rink in Nova Scotia. Any tea? My coffee? Pass me my coffee. I was next to Tim Houston, having a cup of Tim Hortons coffee. Is my coffee there? Yeah. I was next to Tim Houston before he became premier. And he was watching the hockey game, and I was watching the hockey game. It's really a Nova Scotian thing to do. And I said, Tim, and we're talking about the mill in New Glasgow at the time. I'm like, Tim, don't worry about shutting the mill down. Let's have Nova Scotians become a leader in green economy. Let's look at who's making money and surviving locally and internally, and, you know, big ideas. And I said, you know, if you want me, you can come and talk to me anytime, you know, follow up. And, you know, he never called me after that. I thought we were like friends and neighbors. We sat together and watched a hockey game. Come on, Tim. Not Tim Hortons. Tim Houston. Give Nova Scotians the say. Don't talk about lifting bans. It's not about lifting bans right now. And Nova Scotians, what we need to do is tell Tim Houston, that we are going to design the energy priorities and energy ownership in the province and in the country. The other thing is that Mikmaq people possess, that Trump's going to have to deal with, is there are Mikmaq treaties with the United States of America. There's Mikmaq treaties with Canada, constitutional protections with Canada, Mikmaq treaties with the British, and we have a papal bull from Rome. Mikmaq Nation has some of the strongest international legal instruments to protect our sovereignty, our rights, and our say over how we want to use them for energy, and how we want to make sure that it's a good decision to protect all Nova Scotians, all Canadians, and a role model for the rest of the world, especially the United States, but also other territories in the world. The only thing is going to save us is an energy democracy which ties values to rights. It ties taxpayers' money to those strategies. And it ties us to each other in regards to responsibilities for each other and for the environment that we're in. So I think that's it for me. I had to come out because I woke up with I grabbed the shirt, and it was the climate action shirt. And I was telling April, I got to tell them this. And I said, I even grabbed my shirt today by accident, and she went and lowered her phone, and she had the same Washington shirt on and Alton Gas. So that's my divine intervention. That's my get the hell down to the truck house and talk to people who are worried, people who are afraid, people that don't see a path forward, people thinking that we can't do this. We can, especially Nova Scotians, because we live close to the earth. We still respect the earth. We can live off the land, and we can live off of each other. We still have those values as a small territory, but it's a strong territory. And this is, you know, if anybody wants to share this, please do. Please share it to Tim Houston, not Horton. And if you'd like to come and have another conversation, we can pick up on the conversation we had at the rink, come to the truck house, and, you know, we can talk a little more. I don't think he'll call me, though. He didn't call me last time. And I think he knows who I am. So with that, everybody, I'm going to just switch over. We got some beautiful people here making some fires. Say hello. Head down. Good place. Thank you for doing the wood. And this, guys, what brought you here making fire?
Pardon?
I said, what brought you out to make fire?
She wants to come out, so let's go out.
Yeah.
That's it. I just support her and everything she does.
It's a nice place, eh?
Yeah.
Nice feel.
Nice.
Always
All
sacred.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a path of resistance. So this piece, guys, I made this. I didn't know what I was doing. But there's the truck house. And there's the cherry blossoms. And there's the White House. So this message is brought to you by the Sipekne'katik Treaty Truck House, the center of Mi'kmaq resistance. Walalin.